We will go ahead and maximize everyone's time. Just by way of background, these are two new standing committees for the Kentucky Board of Education. One in the other room is what has been the curriculum, the Teaching and Learning Committee in the past, focusing in on teaching and learning across the state, and Kentucky United We Learn in particular. And in this committee, based on the interests and inquiry of members of the board, we decided to form a new standing committee focused on our state schools. We serve as the Board of Education for the Kentucky School for the Deaf and the Kentucky School for the Blind. And we also serve as the board for state-operated area technology centers, unlike the locally operated, you can call them that. Yeah, unlike the locally operated centers. So that's a heavy responsibility for us as a state board. And I personally love attending the graduation ceremonies at KSB and KSD, and really appreciate the opportunities to visit the great work that's happening in our area technology centers. So this is the first convening of that committee, and it's a fact-finding meeting today. So thank you to all of you who are attending today to share about the great work that's happening in our state schools. I'll open the meeting on behalf of Dr. Poe, our chair, with this call to order and a roll call. Randy Poe.
Randy Poe, present.
Steve Trimble.
Here.
Diane Woods.
Diane Woods, present.
Sharon Robinson. I'm here. Lou Young, present. RJ Osborne.
Here.
And Jamie Link.
Present remotely.
All right, thank you. And our first conversation today regards the Kentucky School for the Blind and the Kentucky School for the Deaf update. Our Associate Commissioner for Exceptional Learners is Associate Commissioner Greta Hilton, who's here to provide that update and who's here to provide that update and to introduce our guest.
Thank you. Is it okay if we stay here, or would you like?
Where you are most comfortable, board members, I think this works for us.
Okay. All right, perfect. So I just want to say thank you for your interest in KSB and KSD, and thank you for giving us just a little bit of time today to share about the state schools. And so with me, I also have relatively new director, Shannon Sparkman. I think Shannon's been 2 months into this role, so still new. And then also brand new assistant director, Emma Riley, and Lucy with Emma. And Emma she's been in this role for, I guess, 2 days officially. But she's been working with KSB for a number of years, and is also a graduate of KSB. Let's go ahead and just jump in.
Yes, please. Yeah. Do you have a slide deck? Yes. Oh, Stacey, we got Stacey.
All right. So KSD and KSB, just to give you a little bit of information around the structure of the schools, they are overseen and managed and supported in the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, or as we will say, OSEAL, because in special education, we're very fond of acronyms. And it is its own division within the office, and KSB and KSD serve students not only residentially placed, but day students as well as students who are in all of Kentucky's local school districts who may have vision or hearing loss. Next slide, please. And just to give you a basic introduction of the division level staff, you'll see on the slide there is, as I mentioned earlier, Director Slarkman, Assistant Director Riley, and then we have Shelley Badgett, who is our Director of Special Education, and Carrie McCrary, who's our Food Service Coordinator, and these are the folks that are the Frankfort-based leadership team of both schools, if you will. And then at the school level, we have currently Dr. Lynn Petrie, who is acting principal at KSD, and Peggy Sinclair Morris, who's principal at KSB. And we have a vacant position in our KSB transition. So I'm going to turn it over to Shannon Sparkman to give you a little bit of information around how students are placed at KSB and KSD.
Thank you for the opportunity to tell you about the state schools today. KSD and KSB provide the educational services to the students that are at our school. For those students that are at KSB or KSD, it has been determined that that is their least restrictive environment. I'll speak to that in a minute. But we also provide services to the students across the entire state, those students that are in their home school district. And we do that through our outreach program. Okay, sorry. I got lost. I didn't see the slide switch, so. Excuse me. So when we're thinking about placement at one of the state schools, that decision is made by the Admission Release Committee, the ARC. So the ARC is the governing body over a student with disability, their education plans. They create an IEP. They determine the goals, the services that that student needs to make progress, and they also determine the environment, the placement that those services will be provided in. When they're doing this, they're taking into consideration least restrictive environment. So the least restrictive environment is the maximum extent that a student with disabilities is educated alongside their non-disabled peers. And that decision is made on a continuum of services, which is the next slide. So when the ARC is getting together and they're talking about this plan and they're deciding where these services should take place, considering the LRE, the general educational classroom, is going to be the first setting considered. And that's typically for a student with disabilities where we would see services being provided in the form of collaboration. When that setting is not considered appropriate for a student to make meaningful progress, then the next level of consideration is a special class. This is typically what we call our resource classes. From that, if that's not what's going to be considered the most appropriate, we have special schools or separate schools, and that is where KSD and KSB fall. And then the most restrictive would be a home hospital placement. Okay, first, I'm going to introduce you and tell you a little bit about Kentucky School for the Blind. Our mission statement, Kentucky School for the Blind, to provide comprehensive educational services to all Kentucky students who are blind and visually impaired. Here is our campus. So we've listed out some of the main buildings and their functions over here on the left, and an aerial view on the right. And when you think about the state schools function in a similar fashion to a college campus. So we have students that come every day, or commuters. And then we also have students that live on campus. Those students will arrive Sunday afternoon, spend the entire week within one of the dormitories, and then they will go home on Friday afternoon. Sorry, Nick. Yeah. So when we're looking at what our students need, we're looking at specialized educational services. Now, the primary focus as a school is always going to be student outcomes, but we need to level the playing field for our kids. And we do that through these services, allowing access to the student's education. And these are some of the services that we offer at KSB. And I'm not going to go into any of them. Emma's going to tell you a little bit about some of those later on in the presentation. We also have several enrichment opportunities, extracurricular activities that are offered at KSB. Those are they're listed up there. Bill Roby track and field games. We actually just had that the last week in September. I had never gone before, so it was great. It was wonderful to see all the kids come together. We had several surrounding states that the kids had come to participate. Indiana School for the Blind, Ohio, Tennessee, all came to KSB's campus and competed in those track and field games for the kids. It was fantastic. Next, a little bit about Kentucky School for the Deaf. Oh, sorry. So our mission statement at Kentucky School for the Deaf, we are committed to equipping deaf and hard of hearing students with linguistic, academic, social, and transition skills to reach their full potential. KSD is located in downtown Danville. And here is a map of their campus, and in the same fashion, a list of their main buildings and their functions. KSD also does residential, offer residential for their students, and they live in their dormitories. KSD's educational services, again, primary focus is always going to be that student outcomes. Their specialized service to level the playing field and allow access for our children are listed up here. And there are some of those services that are going to overlap and look similar, but due to the nature of the disability, then there are some that are very different. We also have several opportunities for extracurricular activities at KSD. And I know Dr. Petrie is our acting principal. He's done a really great job at encouraging kids to participate, highlight our children's their active engagement in school. Fantastic with relationships. And so he's really encouraged children to sign up. And from what I understand, because being new to this position, from what I understand, the children those sports programs are growing. There's a lot of positive talk at KSD about student participation in this. So that's been really nice. And now I'm going to turn it over to Emma, who's going to tell you about our outreach programs.
Thank you, Shannon. Do you mind if I look at your computer, please?
Not at all. Let me put it in.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. I'll provide a brief overview of both KSD and KSB's, their outreach programs. It is under the statute that both KSD and KSB must provide service as must be the statewide educational resource center, not only at the state schools, but all over the Commonwealth for students that have vision and hearing loss. Next slide. And any costs related to KSD and KSB, there are outreach services are offered free. The resources are offered free through KBE. And both outreach teams at the individual schools have consultants, and the consultants are assigned regions, and they become point of contact for technical assistance and the different programs that are offered through the outreach. Next slide. As the statewide education resource center, the primary obligation is to provide the different programs that are listed on the slide. And technical assistance. We do offer evaluations and consultations as well. Family support system services and mentoring and sign language classes. As I mentioned, both outreach teams provide technical assistance. When they're split into, each team provides unique services for the students with the hearing loss and students with vision loss. We have the short course program at the Kentucky School for the Blind. And that's where any student with a vision loss from any district can come and stay on the Kentucky School for the Blind's campus for up to 12 weeks. And they're provided one-on-one in-depth instruction on the expanded core curriculum. and anything associated with their vision loss needs. They also have an assistant technology library where any family or student with a visual impairment can borrow from this library. KSB specifically focuses on vision loss, but KSD focuses on communication needs of children that have a hearing loss. And it's typically using American Sign Language. And the curriculum is provided in direct communication using American Sign Language. They have an outreach program that also works with children that experience both vision and hearing loss. If you look at the slide, you can look at the different numbers that the outreach has provided in this last year. Now, keep in mind, the school year has just begun, and you may notice a bit of a difference between the two schools. Now, kids with hearing loss are easier to detect through early childhood hearing screenings. But vision loss is typically identified later in life. Now we can look at how Kentucky compares to other state schools across the United States. Out of 66 deaf schools, KSD, KSD is 1 out of 66. Now there's 41 blind schools, and KSB is one of those. And most of the deaf blind schools do provide community and residential services. 11 states actually have one campus for both schools. And KSD is one of 19 schools that are that is accredited by the Conference for Educational Administrators. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact Shannon or myself, and our emails are on the screen. Thank you.
So just to wrap this up, we really wanted to take today just to give you a high level basic overview of the services that both schools provide and the students to which we reach, and kind of where we stack up against other states across the nation.
So at this point, I think we would open up for questions for the School for the Blind, School for the Deaf presenters.
So thank you for that overview. This is a very important topic for us to really understand how best to advocate for the needs of our state schools. And I think that, we've seen a lot of support develop in recent years for the technology, the career technical centers and so forth, and we're happy for it. But we also know that these institutions represent a particular resource and have a deep history in the state. And so I guess I want to know more about what are the issues. I mean, if we were visioning for the future of KSB and KSD, what would we want to accomplish? We've got infrastructure issues. I get that. Technology is always going to be a challenge. I get that. And the needs of the community, how are they changing? And what do we see as changes that we might want to contemplate? I mean, this is probably the beginning of a longer conversation, but I'll just tee it up to say that is what we're doing here and now. I'm very proud of. And I want to know, what should we be aspiring to do?
Those are big questions. I'm sorry.
No, you.
Those are big questions that will take probably a lot longer than we have today to dig in. So I appreciate the fact that you know, are teeing it up for the kids. One of the things that we have identified within the office that's a huge area that we need to ramp up support in is the outreach program. And I say that because we have identified, as you noted, and have worked for years upon years around the infrastructure issues, the funding issues, you know, all of those things. We will continue with the additional budget requests and things that we talk about regularly. But one of the things that I think we don't talk enough about, at least across our office, is how do we support students whose least restrictive environment might not be at KSD or B for whatever reason that is, but they're still entitled to the same type of supports and services as students who attend KSB or KSD. And kids come for a variety of reasons. And as Emma mentioned, you know, our short course is very strong where kids come on campus, they learn the skills that they need. An example of that might be orientation and mobility. Kids will come, they'll learn how to navigate their environment with a cane, and then they go back because they're better suited within their community than they might be at KSB. And if you think about, you know, big picture, the majority of the students that we reach are across the state. Our populations aren't great in the campuses or at the campuses. And some of that I think we can attribute to, you know, times have changed, things change. Hopefully our districts get more and more support from our schools and our outreach providers. But yeah, so that's probably one of the big areas. And I know that's a big focus for Emma as well, is how do we strengthen the support that we provide for all of our other local districts and our staff on, you know, out in the state.
I love that question, and definitely one of those we need to peel back at every committee meeting, Sharon, I think. Emma mentioned that full costs of KSB and KSD are covered at the department level. Does that include transportation costs? I thought that the local districts provided.
We provide transportation. I may need to get one of the finance folks to help me out here with that one. But they do provide transportation, but we do have reimbursement for transportation.
Portion, yeah.
And then the other thing that I'll just say quickly, we also, under the IDEA, we have a requirement for maintenance of financial support. And those costs they get calculated into that.
So what I should have asked is that thinking about future agendas, Dr. Poe, I would love to devote a committee session to all the aspects of funding to really kind of take a deep dive in that to understand the funding streams for KSB and KSD instead of giving you a pop quiz. My apologies. And a really strange question. Every time I go to KSB, I park close to, I think it's the American Printing House for the Blind.
Yeah.
What's our relationship with them? I think our students intern there, maybe.
Very strong.
Okay. But it's just a collaborative relationship. It's not we're not part of each other.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Although the relationship is strong enough that it does give that illusion. And we're
Okay.
very lucky to have the American Printing House in our backyard.
Yeah, I would imagine. What a resource. And then another angle that we can explore too, Greta and Shannon and team, would be around the charitable foundations for both KSB and KSD as an advocacy arm. To Sharon's question earlier, that might be something that we want to talk about, meet some of those folks and think about that.
I know we're blessed to have the KSB and KSD schools. I noticed that maybe in the presentation, that there's 5 states that had no school of blind, and maybe 11 that didn't have school of deaf. How do those kids get services? And we just need to we've taken ours for granted to be able to have.
In the district.
You may not know how they get services.
Yes, they typically stay in their home school in their district. Students would.
Schools here today.
Well, and we forgot to mention that we just celebrated the 200th anniversary of the Kentucky School for the Deaf. Possibly the oldest school for the deaf in the United States, although somebody says they're older. New York, maybe. I don't think our people believe that.
We would just leave that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We'll just be the oldest because we said so. Dr. Fuller, Secretary Lee, any other questions? Diane, RJ?
Are there any reciprocal agreements with other states for students to come to KSB or KSB? There have been in the past.
No, we have had students in the past. We haven't had reciprocal agreements. We've had students who may have divorced parents, especially in Louisville because it's really close, who have, had shared living arrangements, but typically for students within the state.
And that makes me think another question that we might explore as a committee too is the relationships with Danville Independent, Boyle County, and Jefferson County, where the schools actually sit. Committee, any other questions? You've survived the inaugural committee meeting. So thank you so much. Thank you to the whole team for presenting, and welcome Emma and Lucy to the team. All right, at this time, we're going to turn our attention to Associate Commissioner Beth Fargus and her team here representing the Kentucky Area Technology Centers and Regional Academies.
Good afternoon. Thank you. And I'm going to immediately turn it over to Larry Garrity, who for the next 2.5 months is our Division Director over Technical Schools and Continuous Improvement. He's retiring.
Next question, Dave.
He's retiring at the end of the year, but Larry also, he has a really difficult job, and he also serves as the branch manager over our Kentucky Tech system, which handles our area tech center. So Larry, I'll turn it over to you and the team.
Thank you, Dr. Harkins. Appreciate that. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today to meet with you and to share the area technology centers and what we do and the impact we make across the state. I'd like to introduce our team, also known as the Trio. This is Mike Miller. He is our West Region Area Supervisor of ATCs. We have Sarah March. She's our East Region Area Supervisor. And then Jerry Rowland is our Central Region Area Supervisor. So we basically divide the state 50 ATCs into 3 regions. And they supervise the principals in all 3 regions. So thank you again for the opportunity to be here. So an Area Technology Center is a secondary state-operated facility dedicated to the primary purpose of offering 5 or more CTE, or we call career and technical education programs. So we have 50 state-operated centers across the state. There are locally controlled centers, but we're just referring to the state-operated centers, which there are 50 across the state. So we work with 100, I'm sorry, I could go back once, there you go. We work with 115 feeder districts. We have 20,781 students under KBE's operation. And that's in the fall semester 2023. So we have a huge impact. We make a huge footprint across the state. We work very closely with our local school districts, local feeder districts, community college partners, industry partners. So our principals, teachers, make a huge impact across the state in regards to economic development. It's helping our young people find that niche for them to go to the next level so they can find their passion, their talents, to go to that next level. So we're really excited about that. You go to the next slide now. So here's a map, gives you an idea of where the center is located at. You see those blue dots there. As you can see, there's 50 across the state. Each ATC has one ATC principal that has a admin specialist, also known as a school secretary, but our admin specialists do a whole lot more than just a school secretary does. They wear a big hat. They do provide a lot of support and leadership for our schools. We have one maintenance worker at the majority of the schools, and then each school has at least 5 programs. If you took all 50 schools, you're probably average maybe 6 or 7 programs per school if you were to average it out. We have some schools with 5, some with as many as 10 or more. And it kind of varies in the rural areas compared to the more urban areas. I know that's laid out. Go to the next slide, please. Well, that's my picture there. We can move on from that. So, so I'll just say a little bit about that while you were there, but just don't go back though. So I was originally a computer-aided design instructor, architectural drawing design, did that for 11 years. Moved into the principal role at Webster County, Western Kentucky, was the principal for 12 years. And then served in Mike's seat as the West Region Area Supervisor for 3 years. I've been division director for the past year and 2 months.
Larry, I don't know if you know that Dr. Poe is a former CTE teacher in business and marketing. So you're
Way to go,
speaking,
Dr.
you're
Poe.
speaking this love.
We got a brother amongst us.
That's right.
Sarah Martha's the former business teacher. Y'all can hook up.
There you
So CT is where to be. So I'm sorry to say. So if you move on to our next picture there, we have that's a much better picture. That's Jerry Rowland. She is our Central Region Area Supervisor. She's our official title is Administrative Consultant. We kind of use the old term. I use the old term Area Supervisor. Kind of takes a little better picture of that. So she manages the Central Region. She has 17. She lists there are 17 ATCs in her region. Some ATCs have been branded a little differently. We went through a process about 5 years ago, new Skills for Youth initiative with through a grant process, and some schools are rebranded. We have you'll see it down the word says SOKY. That's Southern. Sorry, fresh my memory. Southern Kentucky Early College and Career Academy. There you go. That's Clinton County. And then we have Trailblazer Academy, which is really close to us here in Mercer County. So they have some different names there. Mason County Career Magnet School, but for all ATCs, just some of their names been rebranded. Go to the next slide. We have Sarah Marks, who's in the east, and she also supervises 17 ATCs. I like to mention, I forgot to mention, Jerry was a former ATC principal of Monroe County, and she was a former family consumer science teacher. And then Sarah was a former principal of Greenup County ATC and a former business teacher. You can see there's 17 schools she works with in the eastern part of the state. The next slide, please. Mike Miller is in the West region. Way out in the West region, right? Way out. He supervises 16 schools. He's one of our newer consultants. He's been with us for a year, doing a great job. He was a former carpenter instructor and principal of Maple Graves ATC and supervises 16 schools in that region. You can see Four Rivers Academy, also known as Fulton County ATC. We have Paducah Innovation Hub, formerly known as Paducah ATC. They're still ATCs at heart. They just have had a name change. Next slide, please. So overall, we have, let me catch up with my slides here. We have 12 main areas, 12 main program areas that our ATC serve. So for example, if you look at health sciences in the top middle, there says health sciences. That's a program area. So almost all of our ATCs have a health science program. Underneath the program, there's many different pathways available. So there's pathways such as pre-nursing pathway, EKG pathway, allied health, phlebotomy, EMT. So the schools kind of specialize. They may have a health science program, but they're going to offer maybe different pathways depending upon where they are in the state, what the needs are in that community, in that region. So the 5 largest areas that our students concentrating in is in health science, business, manufacturing, construction, and transportation. Those are where the majority of students are at. We have students in all the areas. That's where the main focus is at in regards to students that choose those pathways in this program.
Larry, that has been pared down, right? I remember we used to have more like 16.
There's 16 clusters,
Okay, so that's where like mining and.
like
Yeah,
logistics,
okay.
mining, even
Logistics,
those
yeah.
even like bigger,
I
wide.
see, okay.
These are just the main areas that the ATCs are involved with. Like, for example, agriculture education, we only have one program in the state in agriculture. That's a Greenup County ATC. Because the vast majority of agriculture programs are actually for local high schools.
Right. Okay.
So. And then, for example, like law and public safety, that's newer to the ATCs. We probably have maybe 4 or 5 programs across the state. That's a growing area of need and interest. We're starting to dive
That's
into
really popular and locally operated.
Exactly. It's really popular in local schools. Next slide, please. And now I will turn it over to Terry Rowland.
Hello, I'd like to talk to you about post-secondary readiness. As for Kentucky's accountability system, the way that we get to help students the most is through attaining their career readiness status. And as you see on the slide, there's 5 different options that students can work to attain. They can work to attain one or more of those that are listed. The bottom, you see a statistic there that says 76% of the 21-22 ATC graduates were post-secondary ready. And that was the first year of data with the new accountability system. We are awaiting our 22-23 post-secondary readiness data, and we anticipate and hope that that number is higher for the 22-23 school year, and keep working to build those numbers every year. So I'd like to share a little information with you about each of those 5 areas. For industry certifications, and again, looking at the 21-22 data, we had 18,672 ATC students to earn an industry certification in those areas that Larry just mentioned. If you look at the industry certifications that are offered in the state, every one of them are aligned congruently to a career pathway. And there's over 400 different line items of different options, ways that students can work to attain those industry certifications. And then the end of program assessments, we had 787 ATC students to earn an end of program certificate. That number seems significantly lower than industry certifications, but it's important to note that there's industry certifications aligned to all the pathways. There is not an EOP assessment aligned to each one of the pathways. So while business has some end of program assessments, transportation, automotive does not have. Those certificates are important for students that are in those career pathway areas because they get articulated college credit with that. When they go to college and present that show that they attained that, they passed that assessment whenever they were in high school, then the college that it's articulated with will honor that as college credit, and they get to, used to call it clep out kind of a college class. And then for the CTE dual college credit, we had 1,397 students enrolled for the 21-22 school year. And the way that you become career ready with that is to have at least 3 hours and a grade of C or higher. We really feel like that number is going to be higher. It's a lot has to do with the colleges, what they're willing to offer, and you have to have your instructors credentialed to do that. And we're all aware of how many new teachers we have in the state of Kentucky. So it's not as easy as just saying the college will grant that dual credit. You also have to have a teacher that's credentialed and able to offer those courses for dual credit. Co-op or internships. We had 554 students in a co-op or internship. And for that to actually count for the post-secondary readiness, they have to have a minimum of 300 on-the-job hours with a passing grade for that. And then track is the last of those options, and that is for tech-ready apprentices for careers in Kentucky. We had 1,057 certifications earned for that. Students can be in the track program through direct work experience with an employer, or do a pre-apprenticeship where they're taking courses that are going to align specifically with what an employer says that they need students or future workers to come to them, what skills they need them to have. The OCTE, we try to base everything on the importance of building relationships with students. We believe that every student that we have that comes through our door, one of those 5 options or more of those options is going to work for that kid. And the way that we help figure out what that kid needs is through having a relationship with that student and knowing what their next steps are. The way that we at the administrative level help to set a tangible goal for that, because it's really easy to say, build relationships, know what kids need, help them to get it. But how do we make that tangible is just working through our CDIP, which is our district plan, and then every school having a CSIP, which will be their school plan, and it uses their data to set those school goals. And then we take it a step further and we have program improvement plans. So every program in our school is going to have their own individual growth plan that they meet with stakeholders that includes employers, business and industry, parents, students, where that they set tangible goals and then work towards helping students to earn those credentials. When I told my son today my middle child, where I was coming, he said, well, make sure, I told him it was a group of people that was very interested in Kentucky schools. And he said, well, make sure that you mention me and tell them that Jay Cooper said hi.
Before you leave this slide, a student can earn more than one of those. So they can
Yes.
get an industry cert, a CTE dual credit earning, and do an internship.
That's correct.
Yeah, they could do
All.
probably all, but for sure, they could do 4 of the 5. You know, sometimes they might have to choose between a co-op or a track, just depending on how they get all their credits at the high school level, as well as complete their pathways and coursework at the ATC.
Right.
But for sure, a student could get 4 of the 5, and we do
Yeah.
encourage that.
We encourage them to
Yeah.
get more than one.
Credentials.
When they leave the high school, we want them to complete the pathway, and we want them to complete the 4-course sequence. We want them to earn an industry credential or the EOP, which is equivalent of that. We want them to have a work-based learning experience. We want them involved in a career technical student organization, develop those leadership skills, and we want them to walk with some dual credit if at all possible. That's our ultimate goal.
And Jay Cooper's getting 3 or 4 of these too.
Well, he's middle school right now, but my oldest son in high school, he is in 3 CTE programs.
Okay.
Go to the next slide, please. Mike Miller's going to talk with you.
So, the process or the steps that we have in place in our ATCs to get to career readiness. We're operating under this umbrella of 12 elements of high quality career and tech education. We feel like we have almost like a natural environment in a lot of our schools to provide a engaging project-based learning for our students. We look at engaging instruction as sometimes I call it butts up learning. That's we have kids that are involved in hands-on learning. They have student choice. They have student voice often in their projects. We have that fail forward mentality in CTE where we're allowing students every day to develop their skills and giving them that professional feedback that we need. So most of our facilities, if not all of them, are closely aligned with business and industry standards. The equipment these students are working on really brings that learning environment up to engaging project-based learning. When you add to that our co-curricular CTSOs, and I just want to touch on that as part of the 12 elements where students are further developing their technical skills and developing those professional skills. Then we add authentic work-based learning opportunities for our students through co-ops and internships, job shadowings. Some of the things that we do don't make the data page, but they're still very impactful with our students to be out there, even if it's just a one-day job shadowing in the business and industry. It helps to build that learning experience for the students. Jerry touched on our assessments. That all of our assessments, we feel like, are meaningful assessments that are directly connected to career opportunities for our students. So we're proud to say to our student, this assessment is going to help promote you on the post-secondary success. Those work-based learning opportunities would not be possible without strong business and community partnerships. So all of our programs, as Jerry touched on, have advisory committees. It's part of the Perkins requirement, but it's just part of a healthy program in our schools for them to have advisory committees. All of our principals operate with steering committees. And so it helps to build those strong partnerships where not only we're sending students out, into work-based learning, but we're getting business and industry in too, to come in and do guest speakers. That, you know, sometimes we have them come in and launch our problem-based learning for our students, come in and do a launch for us on the need that they have in business and industry. We've even had them come in and judge contests for our students, what we think is an exceptional experience for our students to have their projects judged by real professionals. So those business and industry partnerships are invaluable for us. Then we have local, regional, and state workforce data that we look at on a continual basis. Along with our local student achievement data, we're always analyzing data to see how we can drive improvement within our schools. And we work with those industry certifications. That's a result of our KWIBs. And again, our business and industry partners have quite a voice in our schools. We're also looking at student enrollment data to make sure that we're providing equity and access to all of our students in our school areas and in our regions. We have statewide curriculum committees that collaborate with our post-secondary partners that help us to make sure our pathways are they're valid, that they're looking at that 5-year workforce data to make sure our students are connected to job opportunities that are waiting on them once they graduate. So we believe our learning experience is second to none in Kentucky for our students, and we certainly strive for the high quality CTE in all of our ATCs.
Thank you, Mike. This high quality CTE is tied to the national standards from the Association of Career and Technical Education. That's where we get this from. We're tied to that. And so it's just a great way to look at school improvement, program improvement, district improvement, just to continue to improve things as we move forward to create more opportunities for students. Thank you, Mike. Now we're going to turn to the next slide, and Mr. Mark is going to talk about CTSOs.
So I very frequently argue that CTSOs, also known as Career and Technical Student Organizations, we throw that acronym out loosely and people will be, what? Yeah. I think education, we have more acronyms than even medical field. I swear, we have a lot. But each of our programs, our CTE programs, have a career and technical student organization in which the students can participate in. So like if you're in business, it'd be FBLA. We have FFA, of course, probably everybody's familiar with that. Skills as far as manufacturing students or construction, those programs. And all of these organizations help to enhance the students' learning. They provide leadership opportunities. They provide real world on the job training. And if you want to see a student really change, or you want to see them break out of their shell and become something they never thought they could be, put them in a student organization. That student that doesn't play football, doesn't play basketball, but they can stand up in front of everybody in this room and tell you how to change the brakes in your car very proudly and win a medal for it. And it's that way with all of our CTSOs. They have the opportunity to participate in leadership opportunities at the local, state, and national level. And also they get the opportunity to compete at local, state, and national levels. They get, with the national, they get to travel. I can't tell you, as a business teacher and then a principal, and now on the parent side of it, the benefits, I've seen personally the benefits that CTSOs can bring. My daughter was very, very quiet. She came like from the middle school, and high school just shut her down completely. And I was begging her, to be an FBLA because I had been the advisor for, 10, 12 years. And, mom's pushing me. And so she goes crying to dad. But anyway, she found it on her own. And at all 4 years of her high school experience, she made it to nationals. She's been able to travel to California, Utah, Texas. She's been everywhere with FBLA. And it was such a great experience to me as a
as a parent to see her break out of that shy shell. And the next thing I know, she's standing in front of thousands of people on the national level doing, a presentation that she accidentally signed up for. She thought she signed up for an event where she just had to take a test, but it was a presentation level, event. So she was like, teacher said it's too late. I have to do it. And so I was like, I mean, you got to do it, So through this experience, she had to, and this is how it kind of just full circle where I'm going with this personal story. But she had her individual event that she was doing, she had to pick a career, and it didn't matter if it was business related or not. But she had to find out more about this career, and she had to shadow the occupation. So she chose eye doctor, which that was something she was interested in. So she shadowed there, and she got all the information she needed, did her project, ended up actually getting fourth in the nation. So I was very, very proud of her, proud mom moment. But she was 15 when she did that. Her turning 15 into 16, she was offered a job at that same eye doctor. And they had her doing x-rays, doing the auto refractor, the thing, where you have to see the balloon or you have to see, all that. They had her doing all that by the time she left. She was 16. So I am proud to say now she is at the University of Pikeville and majoring in optometry. So that's how it can change a student and really help develop them. That is what our CTSOs, they are not just another club. They are a student-ran organization that is co-curricular, meaning we teach this stuff in each of these programs, and we encourage them to get into these clubs to further develop their skills and to network and to join in build those leadership skills.
Thank you, sir. You go to the next slide, please. We want to give you some start of the school highlights here. So we worked with our principals at the beginning of the school year at summer conference with a theme for the year for Kentucky Tech for our district, and we got several recommendations and principals voted, and we chose a theme. So the theme for this year for amongst our leadership team, our principals and our teachers is train today, own tomorrow. And you'll see a picture later on how that ties into that. So that's our theme for the year. The principals are excited about it. Teachers are excited about it. We actually have a meme competition going on right now where each school is going to design like a meme or a GIF, I think they call it, or a picture. And we're going to look at those in our fall principal meeting and highlight some of those to highlight some student artwork. That's our theme for the year. Our second focus is leadership versus management. And this is working with our principals. So Jerry, Sarah, Mike, they directly supervise the ATC principals. So our focus this year is leadership versus management, basically proactive versus reactive. Now we know we all have to, if you're a manager, you have to be manager sometimes. There's things you have to do. But there's a different focus you can take when you look at the leadership lens, the leadership focus. And so we're focusing on things. This is just one example of the quote here. A leader is one who knows the way, and shows the way. So we're focusing on encouraging our principals to lead, to encourage their teachers to lead, to encourage their students to lead, to build a positive culture, so that teachers are excited about being at their school, that students are excited about being at their school, that people are excited to come and visit the school and build these positive relationships. Because we know if we get more people, more businesses and community partners involved, that's just going to create better opportunities for our students to thrive and be successful. That's our focus this year is on leadership versus management. What do ATCs do the best? I believe, I think our team believes the ATCs are at the heart of workforce development in Kentucky. As you know, technical skills are in high demand. There's a skills gap, they're in very high demand. We're training students for very high paying, high demand, high wage occupation. So I think we're at the heartbeat of workforce development in partnership with KCTCS, in partnership with our local business industry to drive workforce development to help prepare our students so that businesses can hire them out of high school, or maybe a student wants to go on to the next level and maybe go to community college and get a couple of years under the belt, or maybe they want to earn that first certificate. We're trying to drive that to help our business industry be more successful. And then lastly, our ATCs have very strong partnerships with the local districts. These are just a couple examples. Greenup County ATC works very closely with Greenup County School Districts. Berrien County ATC actually has 5 different feeders. Oh, excuse me, 4 different feeders. They work with Berrien County schools very closely. They serve students also from Glasgow, from Caverna, and from Park County. They also pick up a few students from Metcalf County. Then we have Monroe County ATC, which work very closely with the Monroe County School District and also with the Metcalf County School District. So we focus on very strong partnerships across the state because our students come from the local school districts. They come from, like when I was at Webster County, I worked very closely with Webster County High School principal, Webster County School District superintendent, to make sure that we were making a seamless transition when the students could come from the high school to the ATC, complete a pathway, and have a place for them to go after high school that they were excited about. That was our goal. You go to the next slide. So here's a couple examples. So if you look at the left-hand side there where it says training today, own tomorrow. So this is a highlight of Boone County ATC. So the gentleman at the bottom there is a former graduate of Boone County ATC. He was a pre-nursing student. He's very successful now. He went from volunteer, like it says there, to a very successful registered nurse. And then up above, you see the current students that are currently preparing to be either nurses or maybe phlebotomy techs, whatever their choice is in the future. That's our focus, is preparing students today so they can have a very successful future tomorrow. And if you look on the right-hand side, I'm sorry, one more second. On the right-hand side, this is the Breckenridge County ATC. But yes, we train students on traditional machinery and tools and equipment. That's very important. We're also on the cutting edge. These students are welding students at Breckenridge County ATC. They're practicing welding to virtual reality. So they're getting cutting edge. Now, are they going to be able to weld in industry in virtual reality? No. But they're being exposed to different ways to look at welding, different ways to practice welding, different ways to be introduced to different welding processes. So it's very cutting edge. And we have more and more schools that are getting into virtual reality to expose even middle school students, to expose them to careers in virtual reality. Next slide.
They may actually be counterfeiting money.
Maybe.
Virtual.
Next slide, please. And one more thing I'd like to add, October is National Principals Month. So if you have a chance, please tell a principal that you know, thank you for trying to make sure we reach out to our principals at ATCs and let them know how much we appreciate them and their hard work and their leadership. They do a fantastic job. They're in the trenches, working with our teachers and students to make a bright future. So again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. We're ready for any questions.
Thank you. Committee, we have about 5 more minutes plus time or 4 more minutes with an adjournment vote here at the end. I think this, Dr. Robertson, we should move forward with your question that we capture and give Beth and Larry and the team a chance to come back and talk to us at the next meeting about how to best advocate for ATCs as a board. If we can borrow that one from School for the Blind, School for the Deaf. I would throw in a financial deep dive into ATC funding as well, like we talked about with School for the Blind, School for the Deaf. Other committee members and Secretary Link, I know this is your jam. Randy, anybody else but we have time for a couple questions.
Just curious as to how you decide the programming for your ATCs. Get back with it.
Yeah, we looked at a couple of different things. We have what's called, for a new program, we look at what's called a program viability study, where a principal and their steering committee is just like a school-wide committee that works with the principal to help move the school forward in regards to improvement. We do a program viability study where they look at the most recent employment data, like through KY stats, to look at where the trends in employment and hiring and jobs are going to be available in the next 5 years. They look at student interest. They look at local, regional business industry, what their interests are. Because sometimes maybe the state level data says one thing, but maybe that one region is a little bit different. So we also want to get that direct regional, local input. We just kind of combine that together to move, what's the best way to move forward with that steering committee and that principal using that data.
Do the students go through any kind of interview process to get into the program?
Some schools do that and some programs do that. Some programs are very high demand, like pre-nursing in some areas or like welding in some areas, or what's some other ones you might know that's not very high demand for students to get into. It varies by region.
Depends on the area.
It really depends on the school, I think, a lot
Yeah.
of times, and how many CTE offerings there are in that area.
But right now, like the buzzwords is welding, nursing, electrical, industrial maintenance. Those are a lot of high demand. And so some schools and districts, they have to do an application process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Young, I'd just like to say that, it's great to hear the great update and, but you know, that one last slide or that on that slide is student organization. So I was a former DEC advisor for years. So, great opportunities and it led me to where I am today. So I'm very thankful for the student organizations because when you talk about student engagement, that's just a living example of it. So congratulations to all and look forward to many more updates from both groups as we heard today. And I think the biggest thing that Chair Robinson of the board said is, as we continue these things, how can we help? How can we, as a state board, how can we help make sure that we're magnifying these great state programs that we have? Because I think sometimes we're focused on the districts and the different things, which we need to be, but we also forget about our statewide program. So kudos to all there.
Excellent. All right, we did it, team, and on time. From a motion to adjourn the committee meeting.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Trimble. Second. Thank you, Dr. Robinson. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye. Now hit the other room. Thank you to
Okay, we'll go back.
everyone. Yeah, going back to the other side, you guys. Thank you.